Alright, so after the most recent event, there has been some discussions online regarding how Niantic handled Shiny Smeargle, and I really do think that this discussion is important considering that it is involving the future of Pokémon GO and how they handle Shiny releases. Now, I wanted to give my own 2 cents on this matter because I really think that as long as we keep going with this discussion and we keep it civil, then Niantic could learn quite a lot from the community, and us as players can temper our expectations for future events. So I'm going to be talking about all of that in today's video. Let's roll the intro and get right into it. How's it going, everyone? It's me, it's Count, here with a brand new Pokemon GO video. Today I am going to be talking about Shiny Smeargle. Of course, recently we had the new Pokemon Snap Celebration event in Pokemon GO, and with it introduced a brand new Shiny, and that is of course Shiny Smeargle. Now, a lot of players were really happy to pick up this Shiny considering that it was a limited time Shiny release, but a lot of other players were extremely frustrated for not getting this Shiny, and some players were just outright mad that Niantic handled Shiny Smeargle this way. Now, I do think there's a lot of great feedback from the Pokemon GO community regarding this particular Shiny, and I do want to highlight some of the standouts. First and foremost, I think most players will unanimously agree that Shiny Smeargle should remain in Pokemon GO after this event ended. Of course, a lot of people have argued the same thing for Shiny Meltan, considering that Shiny Meltan was a highly coveted Shiny, but a lot of players were not able to pick those up whenever they were available. So naturally, I think a lot of players would like to see them back into the game after they were released, but have it be an extremely rare encounter. I think something like that would be fair for players who were not able to catch this particular Shiny. I think a lot of players do want to get Shiny Smeargle and Shiny Meltan considering how rare they are, but unfortunately, if you were not able to pick them up during their limited time release, then you were pretty much out of luck. Now, unfortunately, it does make sense that Niantic would have limited releases for Shinies, considering that when it comes to Shinies in general, their rarity is going to be not necessarily tempered when it comes to Pokemon GO. A lot of players will have the most rarest Shinies eventually, and it's not going to be something that some players will be able to brag about. Now, I know that that's something that a lot of players will find to be a bit of a controversial take, but I do think that retaining the rarity of most Shinies is something that would be valuable for Pokemon GO in the long term. However, just completely locking it outside of different events, I feel like that is always going to ruffle feathers, and I do think that players are onto something here when they say that these sort of Shinies should still be available, just be extremely rare. Probably even rarer than the current Shiny rates for wild spawns. I don't necessarily know how Niantic could balance it, but regardless, it is really disappointing that certain Shinies, once they are released, are no longer available and you just have to wait till the next event. And who knows when we're going to have another Snapshot themed event, considering that there's not likely going to be another Pokemon Snap game in the near future. It may take a long time, maybe even up to a year, until we see Shiny Smeargle released back into the game. So for anyone who really wants a Shiny Smeargle, unfortunately they will have to resort to either trading for it, considering that there might be players out there that have more than one and are willing to trade one, or they are going to have to wait a very long time in order for another opportunity to get this Pokemon. Because that's the big kicker here, right? I mean, even if they were to bring back Shiny Smeargle in another event, it's still going to be a chance. So if you have extremely bad luck when it comes to Shiny Smeargle, that you just did not get it this particular event, and then in the future events you will not get it then either, yeah, that's going to create a lot of frustration for players, and I really hope Niantic is fully aware of that, because when it comes to Shinies, a lot of players just want to collect them. I mean, it's a big part of the game, the collection aspect of it. So if players are missing out on certain Shinies, then they they are going to feel disappointed and they are going to feel frustrated. So what exactly are my thoughts regarding how Niantic handled Shiny Smeargle? Well, for me personally, I really can't complain considering that not only did I pick up one Shiny Smeargle, but I actually picked up two of them, and I know that's going to create a lot of hatred among the community. But yeah, I was actually extremely lucky from this event. But just broadly speaking, I do think that Niantic could have handled this a little bit better. Maybe they could have had the event extend out for at least another day so that players had more opportunities to pick up Shiny Smeargle, or they could just keep it in the wild, as in like you have a chance of picking up a Shiny Smeargle every day. I mean, you only get one Smeargle per day outside of this event, so the chances of you picking up a Shiny Smeargle outside of this event would have been extremely low to begin with, but the chance would still be there. So if you did not pick up a Shiny Smeargle, then yeah, it would have been nice that you still had somewhat of an opportunity to pick one up after the event ended. I mean, they could have drastically lowered the shiny rate for Shiny Smeargle, but at least keep it in the game. But I do think that this sort of model of shiny releases is something that Niantic needs to reconsider. Whenever they release a new shiny, there is definitely some level of hype around that shiny being released, but after a while it does lose that sort of hype eventually, considering that more and more shinies do get released into Pokemon Go, so previous shinies do lack a lot of that luster. I mean, a year from now, let's say, people will get a second opportunity to pick up Shiny Smeargle, but by then the hype around Shiny Smeargle will have completely died off. I mean, we've seen this in the past with other shinies. I mean, when it comes to Shiny Meltan, when it was first released, a lot of people were extremely hyped up, and yes, of course, every time they re-release Shiny Meltan, it's gonna create some level of hype, especially among players who still don't have this shiny, but it's not going to be as impactful as the first time. So obviously the same thing could potentially happen with Shiny Smeargle. A lot of players will not necessarily care about this shiny anymore once they re-release it. So it makes no sense that they would just completely bar it from being in the game until the next event that you could potentially get it. I mean, who knows when we will get another chance at Shiny Smeargle? It could be years from now, and I really don't know. And unfortunately, it was the same case with Shiny Meltan. The first time they released Shiny Meltan and the second time they released Shiny Meltan, it was a really long period of time. So yeah, hopefully Niantic is taking into consideration a lot of this feedback. I know a lot of players provide some really great constructive criticisms towards Niantic. Of course, there's a lot of toxicity as well, so I really think it's in our best interest to be civil towards Niantic. I know some frustrations can happen with Pokemon Go, but as long as we are constructive and giving our feedback positively, then Niantic will take it a lot more seriously. This is just a general rule of thumb with any video game company. I mean, any company that does face a lot of backlash and toxicity, they're hardly ever going to listen to their community. But companies that do get a lot of constructive feedback will actually take those into consideration, and I can't see why Niantic would be any different. Niantic does have a history of making some changes whenever they listen to some feedback, although some people will argue that Niantic doesn't really do this as often as they should, but of course we do have to give them the benefit of the doubt. If players are unhappy about this, then Niantic is somewhat obligated to listen. But in general, it is a mixed bag. I have to mention that there are some players out there who are okay with how Niantic handled Shiny Smeargle. I'm only speaking for some of those players who are extremely frustrated, but in actuality, it's actually not a majority of players who felt that way. There's plenty of players who are okay with how they handled Shiny Smeargle in spite of not getting one, and for me myself, I was able to pick up Shiny Smeargle, and I would say that I'm okay with it as well. It wasn't necessarily stellar, but it was okay in my book. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. I would love to have another engaging discussion in my comment section, so if you have any thoughts regarding this whole thing, definitely share them down below. And yeah, let's have a great discussion. Let's be positive and just not be so toxic towards Niantic or other players. And yeah, that's gonna be it. Hope you enjoyed this video. I am Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, and I'll catch you all later.